Hey everyone, it's Dawn, and I was just asked to record this and share it with you. It is a dream I had, and so I'll do that. I hope everybody's doing great. I'm doing well. It is May the 15th, I believe, 2019. And so in the dream, which was, I woke up actually with tears running down my face, which is not usual these days when I dream, but I did, and it's a dream about the larger collective, and ties back to what happened with Notre Dame, and also just what's unfolding in our world at large, particularly in this case, in terms of the realm of religion, religious organizations, and the Vatican in terms of Christianity, and some of the long-held secrets and misinformation and abuse that has gone on in those wider circles of religion. So in the dream, I'll just share specifically, in general terms anyway, the dream. So in the dream, I was visiting in a different city, and with friends, and then my family was there as well, and other individuals, and we went into a large church. It was some sort of special observance day. I didn't really catch which one, but we were in this very large structure, and kind of a cathedral type setting, and just in terms of context and background, I left a church, was kicked out of a church like 20 years ago, so something like that, and then tried for many years to go back because my faith is so important to me, and as you guys know, and so it was very difficult. I could rarely even stay more than 5 minutes. I would shake violently and get sick, and all sorts of difficult things happened for those first 10 years. But I did manage when my son was in middle school, I believe, to start going back with him and his father to a different congregation. And so in this dream, I share that because in this dream, so I'm out of town, right, in a different, I think it was out of the country even, but in the dream, somehow we were all there, and we walked in, and it was a happy occasion, meant to be a happy occasion. But everybody, I was there in my normal awareness, and wasn't crazy about being in this place, but I opened the bulletin, the order of service, and saw that the person speaking was the person who was one of the few ministers, pastors that I truly respected in my adult life, and this person was a guest speaker that morning. And so, there was the opening, the prelude, or the opening music, and that's to, kind of set the stage. And then it was time for the message, the sermon, to be delivered. And the lights went dark, and it was the only part of the service I was genuinely looking forward to, although I was enjoying the music and, of course, being with the people I was with. And suddenly the lights went dim, dark, and I was suddenly on this telepathic wavelength with the minister, who was not in the pulpit up at the front. And everybody's like, what's going on? Where is he? And then the usual chatter and banter that would happen in those situations, started up. And I tuned all of that out in the dream. And I was telepathically communicating with the minister, who was calling, my soul to come to the back of the this large cathedral building to a room, and so I discreetly got up and spoke to one of the people I was with, and went to the back to communicate with him, and he told me that, also, just as an aside, I was dressed, I'm not going to speak specifically, but I had a specific item of clothing on that was unusual to wear into a that kind of a setting, but people who I were with, didn't like that I had that on, but it was me, and so I wasn't going to change that. And so I discreetly got up in the dark, made my way to this place where I somehow knew how to get to where he was. And again, I really respect this individual, and he was there, and it was this moment between us. There were no words really that were spoken, but we were communicating heart to heart. And he let me know that he wasn't going to deliver this message because the people were not worthy. But he wanted me to stay with him for a few minutes in the back, and I could tell, heart, and this was all being conveyed without words, and I could tell heart to heart, that there's a sadness there, in him. And so we just stayed there for a few minutes, and there was some sort of exchange going on that I don't quite know how to articulate. But then in the dream, I go back into this, this group of people who are agitated and annoyed because things aren't unfolding like they think it should. And there's no one at the front to, quote, lead them. And it's still dark. And I know that everything is finished in terms of whatever's supposed to happen that morning, and I am prepared to leave. But the people who are with me, people who I know well, and then even the other people who are strangers, first time I've ever seen them, but somehow we were all appointed to be in this place at that time. And I was saying, like, we need to leave, we need to leave. It's time. It's, it's complete what was going to happen here. It's, been a beautiful place to be, but let's go. And no one would budge. And I knew that I had to leave, and someone very important to me was with me, and that person agreed that they would go with me. But everybody else was not moving, and these are close family members and other people, that I really cared about, and families that were there on, I don't know if it was on vacation or what, but they were there, that I children and people, and there was an increasing sense that we need to leave, and it was dark still. There were no lights on, and for some reason it must have been dark outside because it was dark in there, and you could barely see one another. And then I knew that, like, the time was running out. I was going to have to get up and leave with this individual who had agreed to come with me and leave everyone else behind, which I did not want to do. And then just as I was getting up, someone, a couple, pews in front of where we were sitting said, I smell smoke. I smell smoke. And sure enough, the cathedral we were in was filling up with smoke. And so I and the individual who agreed to come with me, thank goodness, began to walk out. But we had our phones, and I was grabbing a few items that we had brought in, and which seems significant, but I'm not going to share that here. But in any case, we were leaving this building that there was smoke, and nobody would budge. They just continued to sit there. And then there was this sort of confusion among the people, and they were wandering about, just milling around, even though the place was filling up with smoke, and clearly the person was not coming to speak, and everything was over. There was nobody trying to coordinate anything or offer any direction. And so I this individual that was with me, who had agreed to come, I felt a responsibility to navigate to the exits, which we did. And there was no sight of fire, but clearly it was a dangerous situation. And I was torn because the family members and others who were just glued to their seats in this zombie-like state, but choosing, clearly making a choice to be there. It was disturbing to me, particularly the families and the other children that were involved. So I got this individual out and there was a green pasture and a stream across the like sort of the parking lot area or whatever, which makes no sense, right? It wouldn't be in a city, which is where we were, but that's how it was in the dream. And so we went there, and then I went back in the smoldering building. Again, no sight of fire, which was odd, but the smoke was everywhere. And I got in, and there was this chain of events or series of, in terms of mumbling. People were like mumbling and like this sort of couldn't understand them, but they weren't concerned at all that the building was apparently burning down, and it was insane. It was an insane scene or series of events. But and then out of that area came Gray. Gray is a wolf dog that is connected for me with the story of Magdalene, and around the time, he was the companion of the child of Yeshua and Magdalene, Judah, who I call Judah, and who died when he was 12. And Gray was in this dream, and Gray, the wolf dog, was there, and we locked eyes, and he met me, and he came to me and kind of, like kind of regrouped me. I mean, this, like, he's like basically a spirit guardian, in this dream, and really in my larger reality as well, and my life here and there, in terms of being with Magda and in the aftermath of the child's death. But Gray was, again, communicating kind of telepathically and helping me to see that it's time for it to be over. There's no more. This was the message in the dream, was that the choice has been given, the alarm had been sounded, and it was time to release it all. Which obviously, saying that is extremely hard for me, because that just seems unthinkable. But there was also equally an assurance that there was no final, death or destruction, and that what was coming telepathically from Gray as we walked out together to rejoin the individual who had left with me, and again, everybody was just inside, and they were free to run or to leave, and they weren't, and there was nothing happening. It was dead and hollow. And this, by the way, I'm not suggesting by this, I'm just sharing the dream. I'm not suggesting that all faith and religion is dead and hollow in any way. As it got, those of you who listen to me know how much, what a passion I have, and a love I have, for Yeshua, for Jesus, and for also for the some of the the prophecies and the teachings that are there for us, that have been through the ages, and the respect that I have for all religions as well, because essentially I'm sorry, I'm going off the dream for a minute, but essentially I wanted to share that, my belief is it's the one light, the one God, the source of all life, that is at the root of all religions. And somehow we've lost that and gone in these tiny little ridiculous branched out into and gotten so far away from the truth of what we really that religion was born from, that we've completely forgotten. And we've certainly forgotten how connected we are to one another, and that that the source of that life and the light and the love, and that we are one with it, and that we are meant to celebrate that above all and honor that above all, and not to sit in burning buildings and wait for the appointed, approved, sanctioned person. And thankfully, like as in the dream, some of those individuals who have been in such roles, they themselves see this. Okay, back to the dream. Gray, the wolf, is walking out with me calmly. He's actually like, it's almost like I'm being carried on a wind, a soft wind. That's a channel was made, or a path with a stream of wind, and Gray and I are walking, and Gray and I are communicating telepathically, and that's what he's saying to me, And when we come outside, when we pass through those doors and are outside, I'm sorry, on the green with the river running through it, the sun has come out outside, and there's Jesus. And so that was the dream. There was a few other things I'd like to share, but they're just a little too personal right now. And I had this dream the evening of the 14th of May, 2019. It's early in the morning on the 15th when I'm sharing this. So, yes, was asked to share it. I do have a sense that there is more coming in the summer months in particular, that has to do with some of the through the centuries, some of the organizations that have had a grip on these various religions. I'm speaking obviously about Christianity, but because that's my background, but it's broader than that. And there is certainly a purification. I also feel that this is somehow linked to sort of that image that I had, and I believe it was in my Easter, what I shared around Easter, that sort of image that I had about a second Pentecost, although that was not in this dream. There wasn't that. Actually, my character in the dream, me in the dream, my heart was like, please send that now to, these people some of whom I care deeply about, and others who are innocents, who are somehow stuck in this framework. It was like, that's exactly what it was like, a framework or a false structure or reality, not the building itself, but the entire system of belief. Again, not that there wasn't one truth running through that, but and one other thing I forgot was, in this building, there were, strangely, I don't know what this means exactly, but strangely, there were statues in the building that were just odd. They shouldn't have been there. And they were statues, actually, that were honoring essentially what is corruption in the various centuries or times, epochs, ages of this particular religion. And nothing specifically here that I recognized, but it was almost like there's such a juxtaposition, because, whereas in a normal cathedral you would see, you would see certainly, statues to Peter and Paul and to some of the greats in terms of who is celebrated in that tradition. In this particular church or cathedral that we were in, this beautiful structure, there were actually statues to things that were clearly tied into government, politics, money, and corruption even. And these statues were, they didn't belong, at least that was my thought, when I was sitting there waiting for the actual service to begin. So that was the dream that I had, and for what it's worth, I do, kind of at this point, it's pretty early in the morning on the 15th, so I haven't had a chance to super process it, but I do think that the fact that I was asked to share it, and just some of the symbolism that I shared and some that I haven't shared that was in the dream. And I may do a part two if I'm led to do that. But it does feel that it is a signal of sorts. Certainly for me personally, I think it's completion in a way. But also just sort of a continuation on from recent events in terms of I don't know, dismantling maybe of the illusion. Although again, the majority of the people, were content to and faithful actually to that. So I'll stop there. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And, again, probably taking a bit of a break, but if I'm led to, I'll share things like this. Take care. Bye.